In the 1990s, Midway was the king of the arcades, with huge hits like NBA Jam, Cruisin' USA, and Mortal Kombat. I was lucky enough to join Midway on a new action game for the PlayStation 2 called Psi-Ops, the Mindgate Conspiracy. This is my story of joining the team, what I learned along the way, and what you could learn from this timeless cult classic. I immediately noticed that they had a very intricate map on the wall of every single room, and the map showed the entire game. The other thing that I noticed here too, they colored the map. They took screenshots with the lighting and the textures all applied to them so that they could get a sense of the color theory throughout the project. And I thought that was really, really cool. And you could see that from a snapshot. You could just tell what the overall vibe of a certain area would be like. Every room was carefully designed. There was a user story. There was I'm gonna enter in, this is what I'm gonna see, this is what's gonna happen, this is the goal of this room, and then this is how this room fits with the larger level, the meta of the level, the meta of the game, all those different layers. These psi powers were just really well thought out. They used those verbs as the Swiss Army knife as they approached each room. Because of that, with the mechanics of Psi-Ops, it led to some really interesting action puzzles in that project. And I think that's one of the reasons why that project was so critically acclaimed. Us artists would just work on one room at a time, one cell, and the things that were unmovable were the doors. We call them the door jams. And it was really complicated when you had multiple rooms all connected to one, and especially if people were working on different rooms. A couple of really good things came about here on a production side. Number one, it kind of forced us to stay focused on the format that we already had. I think if we were in engine, if we had the freedom that we have now with Unity and Unreal, there'd be too much of a urge to just say, you know what, design-wise, let's just open this way up, or let's just change all this right here. But the fact that everything was kind of locked and it was difficult or hard or a pain in the butt to change the footprint of a room, it was just a nice constraint. It was like, well, we can't do that. And that helped so much, because knowing what not to focus on is such a big part of working on a creative project. And then I remember they showed us Mortal Kombat, and they said, well, this is an easy game for us to market because it's Mortal Kombat. Everybody knows it. The craftsmanship of the game is done in a really high polish. And they were saying that about Psi-Ops too, but where we're falling short, he kind of showed us like a graph. I think it was like 3 different parts. Is it a known thing? And Psi-Ops was like 0, but Mortal Kombat was 5. Was it executed well? Both games were at 5. And then concept. And Mortal Kombat also got 5. So Mortal Kombat got 5 across on all 3 criteria that marketing was looking at. And for us, they kind of put like a 2 right there for concept as far as graspability from the audience perspective. They're just kind of scratching their heads, and they're just like, we need to learn from this for our next project. We have great mechanics, we have great stuff here. We're gonna do our best to market this, but we need to really think about IP. And so if you know your Midway lore, the next project that they worked on was John Woo's Stranglehold. EGM gave us a 99 out of 100, and they gave us like this, either a 2 or a 4-page spread. We had a picture of the whole team. The team really celebrated that. It made it all worth it. Enough about all this and my journey. How does this help you with yours? The key thing is to design for the moments. If it's not adding to the overall experience, just cut it. There's a lot of pressure to just add more and more gameplay these days, and I think that doesn't really work. I sort of subscribe to the less is more and make everything count, because people have only so much time, and you want to entertain them as much as you can while they're experiencing your thing. put as much love and care as you can into it to make every kind of moment exciting. Pipeline-wise, it's really good to build yourself a clean pipeline, even if you're working on your own. And I think have yourself some clear frameworks so that you sort of on purpose box yourself in. It'll wind up helping you. You'll ship faster and it'll inform your creativity more. It's a good thing, not a bad thing, to give yourself some constraints. Another thing was keeping art and design layers separate. Just having this mindset, just overall, that all your art assets are just for visuals, and then your design assets kind of sit on top, and they are your triggers and everything else. If you treat your projects in this way, not only is it just a good mindset because projects are so big and you have to keep track of things anyway, but it'll also allow you to kind of parcel things out if you start, growing your team or bringing somebody else on. Or if you want to do passes yourself as a solo, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to leave the design there, but I'm going to now work on the environment art, or vice versa. You don't have to kind of rework both. You could focus on one kind of discipline at a time. Last thing is plan for marketing early. Really from the very beginnings of your project, knowing your genre, knowing how you fit in with your competitors, seeing what's out there in the competitive landscape, what's kind of been announced and what's coming down the pipeline. I think all of this is really important as you're working on your project and you choose your project. Choosing your project is obviously the most important decision that you make on your project's journey. So choose wisely, right? But it's difficult because you are gonna love your project. You're making it for yourself probably, or you feel like there's a hole in the market that this project could fit. Be really mindful of how that's going to be seen from someone who doesn't know you, doesn't know your project, and is just coming into this cold. How can you demonstrate what this project is so that they get it at a nanosecond? So anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If you've come this far and you like what I'm talking about here, go ahead and subscribe. It would really help me out, kind of know what you're interested in. But I also make my own stuff. So if you want to see how I'm using these principles and not just talking about them, but applying them into my own thing, you could watch that journey as well. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.